Alright, just showing you guys a real quick sneak peek of my house. Look at this monster. That's a beauty. My first deer right here. Beautiful. Alright, if you guys have not seen this video right here, I definitely suggest you go check it out. It's pretty awesome. Just a lot of catching fish for about 19 minutes. It was the biggest school of bass I've probably ever found on the river, but without talking about it too much, I'm just going to let it play. That right there is what you see in the video, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Alright guys, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put this video on mute. I'm going to let it play in the background just so you can kind of get the gist of what's going on here. So like I said, we're going to be talking about the spinnerbait today. In this video right back behind me, granted there was a ton of fish and they were hungry. We're catching fish on this spinner right here. Actually, this is what my buddy Dawson was using, and then I was using the white color right here. Now, as you'll see, if you're checking over my shoulder here from time to time, we're catching a ton of fish. And it wasn't just this one day. I've caught fish like this all the time. Almost every day that I go fishing on the Mississippi River, I have either a chatterbait or a spinnerbait or both tied on, and I catch fish on them almost every day. So what a lot of people like to do is go out and find themselves a really good spinnerbait. Well, you might spend $5, $6, $7 on a spinnerbait, and it's just going to be a spinnerbait. Well, there's so many different kinds of spinners. There's different brands, different sizes, different blades, colors, everything. But what I think works the best for me, fishing on the Mississippi River a bunch, and then also fishing like up in Minnesota, and just a bunch in the Midwest here in this area. I'm sure it would work in other parts of the country, I just haven't tried it. But I go out to Walmart, and they got these spinners here. It's a Walmart spinnerbait for $1. And as you can see, what I did there is I took a 3-inch twister tail worm. Usually get a 100-pack of them. That way when I go out and buy 25 spinners or whatever, I just put a twister tail on each one of them. And then you usually got to switch those out every now and then when you're fishing. The fish beat them up pretty good. But you're just going to put that on there, and it looks like a little school of minnows, a little school of bait fish swimming through the water. And like I said, when I'm fishing around here, I fish with people that are using KVD spinnerbaits and stuff like that, and they're not catching near as many fish as I am. And I don't really know why that is for sure, but I think the biggest reason is, especially in the spots that are fished a lot more, you got guys, pretty much everyone's throwing spinnerbaits. Everyone has a spinnerbait if they're fishing for bass. So they're all throwing these bigger spinnerbaits, and this one's just a little bit smaller than most of them are. So it's just a little bit something different that they're not seeing quite as much, but it's still a spinner. So I think that's kind of the reason that I catch a lot of fish on these, is just because it's different and it's not what everyone else is using. And I feel like you'll catch a lot more fish on it because it's a little bit smaller. You will catch smaller ones, but I've also caught some really big fish on these spinnerbaits here. So when it comes down to color, just like everything I use, I like to keep it fairly basic. I've pretty much just eliminated some of the colors I really haven't ever had luck with, and I just stick with the ones that I know work and that I've caught fish on all the time. So what I usually have tied on is a white spinnerbait with a little bit of blue there on the head. And then I also got this color here with the red and the yellow. And I mean, I just got a couple different modifications. I got some white and red and stuff like that too. But as you can see, these two spinnerbaits got different blades on them. These ones have the willow blades over here, and then this is just the Colorado blade. And it doesn't really look like much, but when it actually comes down to it, they make a huge difference, and you can really catch a lot more fish when you kind of figure out what ones to use at a different time. And if you're using one kind of spinner and you're not catching anything, just switch it up and see if you can't catch something. But what I usually like to do is when I'm first starting out in the spring, I'll start by throwing a Colorado blade. The reason is it just puts out a little bit more thump. It moves slower through the water. You can keep it up higher in the water and move it slower. So that's kind of what I like to do in the springtime, because obviously those fish aren't very active yet. And when that water starts warming up and they start getting a little more aggressive, that's when I like to start throwing a spinnerbait like that, because it's just going to come through the water a little bit faster, and it's not going to put out quite as much of a thump, but like I said, it's going to move faster. It's going to be more of a reaction strike for the more aggressive fish. And then when you get into the fall, on the Mississippi especially, if you guys have fished the Mississippi River, you know that the smallmouth in the fall are just phenomenally fun to fish for. And when you got a spinnerbait tied on with those willow blades and you're moving that through the water just about as fast as you can, just keeping it just below the surface so it doesn't break the water plane, then you're going to catch a ton of smallmouth doing that, and they will come out and chase down just about anything. So it's nice just to throw on a good old $1 spinnerbait, nice reliable spinnerbait, throw it out there, reel it in as fast as you can, and you'll catch a ton of fish. So when it comes to where I'm going to fish these, you can really fish them almost anywhere you want, because they're not extremely weedless, but you can fish them in almost any type of weeds other than just like straight up grass mats, because that hook it's kind of protected by everything here, and if you're just ripping it through the grass and stuff and keeping it up through the grass and keeping the bait moving, you're going to keep it free. You can move it through bushes, trees, literally anything. You can pull this bait through there and it'll come through. If you just get a little bit of practice, just keep it moving and do it right, it'll work out really good for you. But like I said, you can fish it anywhere. I like fishing a spinnerbait in grass a lot, and then there's a lot of riprap shorelines and stuff like that, and I'll kind of go along the shoreline and I'll just cast parallel to the shore and just bring it straight along, like just a couple feet off the bank most of the time. And especially in the fall, when those smallmouth move up right away in the morning on some of those riprap banks and they start feeding, you can literally go and they will just start attacking it. It'll be the most fun that you've ever had in your life. If you haven't noticed, catching a ton of fish back here, and that's what these will do. They'll catch you when you're on fish. Just put a spinnerbait on and start throwing it. If they're biting it, just keep catching them. Now, when it comes down to what I'm throwing it on, like I talked about the chatterbait, I got my Black Max, the Abu Garcia Black Max, and then a medium action rod. That's the same thing I got here for a rod. I got quantum reel actually, but I'll throw a spinnerbait on a Abu Garcia Black Max too, or whatever. I mean, basically just any reel. This one's a 7/0 to 1 gear ratio, so it's a little bit faster than the other reels I'll use, but something that you just feel comfortable with when you're doing a lot of casting and constantly reeling. That's what I'm going to be doing with this, obviously. So what I got here for line, I got some 14-pound Power Pro braided line, and I know some people don't like casting like crankbaits and spinnerbaits and stuff with braided line on, but for some reason I just really like to, because it makes it a lot more sensitive when you have other kinds of line on there. When you got fluorocarbon or monofilament or whatever, it's got stretch to it, and the bites just aren't going to be as definite. And usually when I'm using a spinnerbait, I'll be reeling it and I'll feel them like pecking at it, and like I said, it's going to look like a school of bait fish coming through the water. And when you're reeling that in and a bass comes up and sees that, sometimes he's actually not eating it. All he's going to do is he's going to hit it with his head or try to break the school of bait fish up, That way he can kind of get them spread out, and then he's going to attack and eat them. So a lot of times when I'm reeling this in, I can feel them literally come up and they'll hit it, but they won't actually grab onto it. So you'll just be reeling it slow, reeling it fast, whatever the hell you're doing. But you're reeling it in, and then you'll just kind of feel like little ticks at it, and you just keep that steady reel, and then all of a sudden you'll see your line start drifting off to one side or the other, or it'll go slack, or you'll really start pulling. That's when you're going to set the hook into it. So that's pretty much the main reason that I like using braid when I'm using the stuff that I cast with. With the crankbait, sometimes I won't, but for this stuff, I love using braid because you're really going to be able to feel those bites. And like I said, a lot of times they don't actually get that spinnerbait in their mouth on the first hit there. So if you're sitting there feeling that bite, that first bite, and you set the hook and reel it in, I mean, you're going to miss the fish. But if you just feel him hit it and then he comes back to finish it off, that's when you are going to want to set the hook and catch that fish. So a couple more things, just quick things that I want to talk to you guys about. As you can see here on this rod, I got the rod sleeve, and it's not much. A lot of you guys probably use rod sleeves, but if you don't, I would definitely invest in them. They're very cheap. These ones were only like $2.50 a piece, and they've saved me hundreds because I was breaking probably 3 or 4 rods every year just from, you know, having them laying around, and you step on them or they get tangled up and you break a tip off here, break a tip off there. This thing slides right on, you slide it right off, and it's going to keep everything nice and neat. It's not going to get tangled up with other lines. You're not going to break near as many pulls. So I would definitely look into getting one of those. Also, I want to end here on one more thing. When it comes to fishing with spinners, I like to have a whole bunch of them because if you live anywhere that has northern pike, they're definitely going to be hitting those spinners too. And I don't like to use leaders when I'm bass fishing, so that's what's nice about having a $1 bait on there. The northern comes up and he bites that and cuts your line. That lure's gone, and you're just out $1, not $5 or $6 every time. So, like I said, I'm going to have a lot of spinner baits, and I like to keep my spinner box here nice and full. If you don't have a spinner box and you're a bass fisherman, then I'd like to know what you're doing with your spinner baits, because I used to always try to shove them in the tackle trays and try to do other stuff with them, but there's nothing like having this box here for your spinner baits. I'll show it to you here real quick. You got those 2 little racks there on the inside. You can hang all your spinners up in there. Now, the awesome thing about this is you got it sitting in the front of your boat, and you take off, you hit some waves, that thing goes rolling down, falls, shakes around, tumbling all over your boat, laying upside down. Pick it up, shake it around a little bit, right side up. You can open that thing up, and all your spinner baits are still perfect. So, spinner box, if you're into fishing and you're going to have some spinners laying around, definitely just get one of these. They're not expensive at all, and they're going to make your life a hell of a lot easier. So I hope you guys learned some stuff today with my tips that I threw out there for you. I hope you're enjoying this video here in the background. If you want to actually go watch it, it's on my channel, so go check it out. Thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for some more videos like this in the future. See you guys later.